broadcast. Hopefully, because I did enable video share, hopefully as people log on, not everybody's video will pop up.
Okay.
That will be awkward for everyone. But it looks like we're getting some participants in and their video is off. So for those of you who are on the panel this afternoon, as you can tell, you have video capability. So depending on whatever makes you feel comfortable, if you want to share your video, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. No pressure.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's community training session. It is a Share Live, Ingenuity in the Share Community amidst COVID-19. So I know that a few people will begin to trickle in, but it is that time. And of course, we've got a lot of content to cover today. So we'll go ahead and get started and let folks join us as they come in. So as usual, today's training has been designed by the Financial Clinic. If you're not aware, if you're new joining us for the first session, the clinic is a nonprofit based in New York City. It was founded in 2005, and we got our start providing services directly to customers in the field. And to this day, financial coaches work at sites across the country as part of the clinic's Financial Security Ecosystem, or FSE, model. And in addition to being practitioners, the clinic also partners with hundreds of organizations across the country to provide training and technical assistance, helping them to embed coaching practices that fit the needs of their sectors and populations. The clinic also builds and maintains Change Machine, the online financial coaching platform. So if you joined us in previous sessions, we've had different ways of presenting the content and information, but this time we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. Although in previous training sessions, we have focused on strength-based coaching solutions, benefits and resource planning, virtual coaching tips and strategies provided to you by the clinic. This session is going to focus on the ingenuity which exists within the Share community. So you'll have a little bit of a break from my voice, and we are super pleased today to have 3 Share partners on the call with us to share the creative ways in which they have pivoted their services and implemented solutions to addressing customers' most pressing questions and concerns. We are also pleased to have Raul de la O and Kira Hansel who are expert financial coaches with the clinic on the call to share their experiences and strategies for coaching customers during the pandemic. In today's session, you'll also have the opportunity to ask questions of our coaches and partners, as well as share your own creative solutions for coaching customers around the areas of benefit and resource planning, spending and savings plans, leveraging technology, employment, and other common areas of concern among customers. So before we begin, we do want to acknowledge that this crisis is unprecedented. And as it continues to unfold, we're going to be learning and adjusting our approach. So we don't have all of the answers. We don't pretend to have all of the answers, but we are going to be sharing our best thinking, including financial security strategies that have been used to great effect by our coaches and our partners for years. We're also going to be lifting up our customers and partners' best practices as examples of resilience, which is why we really want to hear from you guys during this session. So we're really, really excited to have everybody today. Thank you so much for being on the call. I am your facilitator for today, Amanda Espinosa, that's me, and I am the Manager of Training Initiatives with the Financial Clinic. That's not a great picture, but you know, it's all I had. So I just grabbed that picture. And just a little session overview, what we're going to be doing today. As always, we're going to start off with a poll. And we want to get a sense of what session topics would be most helpful to you now. And this is really important information for us to have because your feedback really informs the content that we develop, the tools that we share with you and also develop. And we really want things to be relevant and useful to you. We don't want to just assume what you want. So we really, really appreciate and value your feedback there. We're, as I said, also going to be featuring our 3 share partners, as well as our expert coaches who are going to share their experiences and creative, ingenious approaches to service delivery. You'll also have a chance to hear from our expert coaches in a Q&A type of format where they will also share their creative and ingenious approaches. We're going to do a little bit of an attendee Q&A, so you guys will have the opportunity to ask questions of our partners and our coaches, as well as to share your own best practices to service delivery in response to the pandemic. And lastly, we'll discuss next steps, which includes upcoming training sessions, as well as accessing Share on Change Machine. I just want you guys to know as well that this session is going to be recorded, and at the conclusion of this training, we will be following up with a recording for you to view. You can also listen to, or excuse me, you can also access the recording on the Share platform. So some technical logistics. Attendees are currently muted. Everybody is currently muted, but there's still ways that you can contribute. So if you do have any question or you would like to say something, you can either write a response in the chat box, and you can choose to communicate with moderators only or with all attendees. And just keep in mind that who you are addressing your message to when you write in the chat. Unless you have a very personal question that you want directed at just the panelists or just at me, that you're facilitator, it's always wonderful to share your questions with the larger forum, because most likely somebody else also has that question and wants the answer to it. So just make sure that you're sharing with all attendees. So you can write your response in the chat box, and you can also kind of raise your hand and say that you'd like to speak. And we have some chat box moderators who are going to unmute participants one at a time so that you can share your thoughts or ask your question. You can also unmute your own line. So we'll unmute on our end, and you will have to unmute yourself on your end. So do make sure to do that as well. If you're calling in via a telephone number, just go ahead and put in the chat box what that phone number is, so that way we know who to unmute. Visual for my visual learners here. Here's how you're going to unmute yourself. You're going to hover your mouse over the microphone icon that's right next to your name. Just go ahead and click on that button, and it'll say unmute. All right, so let's get with our poll. Just a sec. Not sure why I'm not seeing my poll launch. Oh, there. All right, hopefully everybody can see that poll now. So the question is, of the following upcoming community training session topics, which would be the most helpful to you now? So you only can choose one. We'll go ahead and allow the panelists to vote as well and give you a few minutes Go ahead and answer. Is everyone able to see the poll? Ah, there we go. Okay, I'll hang out around for a few more seconds and let the rest of the folks go ahead and put their responses in. Yep, and if you are only seeing one question, there's only one question to answer. Thank you for checking in on that. Okay, in a few more seconds, I believe we'll have 100% response, so we'll just wait on that. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll right now. And if anybody is interested in seeing the results, I will go ahead and share that. So it looks like the majority of people are most interested in coaching strategies for keeping customer motivation high during a crisis. And then we've got close second and third with spending and savings plans, as well as workforce and employment supports. Now, not to worry, those of you who chose tax planning and garnishments or overcoming imposter syndrome, that's not to say that we have no intentions of doing those sessions, but we want to get a sense of where your guys' priority is now. So thank you very, very much for that. All right, and with that, I would like to turn the floor over to our first presenter, Libby Whiteside. Libby is the program manager at Disability Rights Louisiana, And her expertise includes, but of course is not limited to, working with vulnerable populations, including individuals with developmental disabilities, as well as income and resource planning. Libby is going to be sharing her agency's innovative solutions for addressing customers' immediate needs and their long-term needs. So welcome, Libby.
All right, thanks so much for having me. I'm Libby Whiteside, and I work for a nonprofit based in New Orleans called Disability Rights Louisiana. And we are a team of attorneys, advocates, and information and policy specialists who work together to protect and further the civil rights of people with disabilities so that they can live independently and safely in the community. And I manage a program called Financial Access, Inclusion, and Resources, or FAIR for short, which is a pilot that's funded by the Kessler Foundation, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, and JP Morgan. And it's been up and running since this past June. And FAIR works to improve the employment and the financial outcomes of people with disabilities who are returning home from incarceration. And we do that by providing a mix of financial coaching and case management services to help our clients get connected to the information and resources that they need to find a job, keep a job, and become more financially secure. And we currently have 2 full-time case handlers in the program, and that would be myself and Pat Holmes, who's also on the call, and he's an incredible advocate for his clients. So since COVID-19 has happened, we've seen some major shifts in what we're doing and how we're doing it. So first, like many of you, we are now strictly working from home remotely and are providing virtual services to a client population who, for the most part, has extremely limited access and experience with technology, and who often also have limited support systems. So for most clients, virtual services have involved doing meetings over the phone and sending follow-up messages through the text message function in the Change Machine app. And we used to strictly do client sessions face-to-face, and in many ways that can't be beat. But I will say shifting to this method of interaction has made scheduling meetings and having more frequent and more casual interactions with clients easier. And so another shift in, on this topic is that since most agencies that administer public benefits have shifted to virtual benefit application and wage reporting processes, we're playing a major role right now in helping our clients access and maintain income supports. So essentially, we're helping our clients identify the benefits that they may be eligible for. We're helping them figure out the different ways they can apply and whether or not they'll likely be able to do that on their own or with the help of friends and family. And for those who need it, Pat and I are facilitating the application on our own laptops with the individual answering the questions over the phone. And to do this, we have to exchange the appropriate consents, which often requires sending documents and getting signatures through regular mail. Another shift our program has experienced is that the new benefits related to COVID-19 have resulted in a very important need for us to follow closely how different agencies will treat these new forms of income and how people will be enrolled and found eligible. And this is so important to our program because at least 50% of our clients receive Social Security or SSI benefits, and almost all of them have Medicaid coverage. So it's going to be extremely important to our clients to understand what forms of income they need to report to these agencies, and if applying for a new benefit will impact their eligibility for or how much they receive in the benefits they were receiving before this happened. So as a result, we've worked with our organization's Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Program to put together a Q&A document that outlines common questions about these topics, and it gets updated on a weekly basis because this information is ever changing. And I believe Amanda plans to share a link to our most recent Q&A document. And just one consideration with that is that a lot of the information within that document is focused around Louisiana policies. So if you're uncertain about how some of these policies will apply in your state, it'll be good to reach out to your state Department of Health and unemployment office, just to be clear on how they're considering some of these forms of income and eligibility. And some points that should apply across the country are that stimulus checks received due to COVID-19 will not impact any federal benefits. However, if people hang on to these checks for longer than a year, then down the road, the money that's left over from the checks could have an impact on benefits that have resource limitations. And then on the other hand, receiving state and federal unemployment benefits will impact how much someone gets in SSI. So it's going to be very important for SSI beneficiaries to report these income changes to Social Security so that they don't get an overpayment. Another interesting pivot in the program since all of this has happened is that our discussions with clients around new pandemic-related benefits have resulted in discussions around things like how bank accounts can lead to faster receipt of benefits, how individuals will need to file taxes to get stimulus checks, or some individuals will, and how certain debts can result in garnishments. So an unexpected outcome has been an increased client interest in getting banked, filing taxes, and discussing debt. And also on that note, we've been able to develop a really great partnership with Hope Credit Union that our teammate Pat had developed and initiated before this started. And since the pandemic has begun, it's just improved to a point where we're working with a program manager over at Hope Credit Union who's facilitating our clients' applications. They're waiving new membership fees, and they're looking out for ways that their products could be customized, or the way they could make new products potentially in the future to better meet the needs of our clients. And then we were also able to connect with a VITA volunteer from United Way who's been willing to do tax preparation with our clients from home. So that's been very helpful. And so, while there have been some positive angles to this shift in services, it hasn't been without its challenges, and specifically around workforce development. So I'm excited to see that that's going to be, something that will be discussed in future trainings. But over 50% of our clients who were employed before the pandemic are now unemployed. And so finding new jobs at this time poses significant challenges for many reasons, including a more narrow and competitive job market, due to the fact that many of our clients can't work jobs or are going to need to avoid to work jobs in environments where they're facing and interacting with the public frequently. And another challenge is that a lot of the talented and well-connected job placement specialists we were previously able to connect our clients to are now suspending services, and career development services in particular, because their workload's been shifted to something else during this time. So at this point, we're working to develop or improve our relationships with other workforce development programs in the area, and that are still running. And then we are also working to help our clients prepare applications for and submit applications online to those in-demand hiring jobs. And a very helpful place to find those jobs and an updated list of those jobs is a website called WorkNOLA, which has been compiled by a regional economic development alliance called Greater New Orleans Incorporated. So all that being said, I would love to connect with other programs who have found some successful strategies to helping clients secure employment during this time, and just successful financial coaching strategies in general. And I think that's it for me for now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Libby. We really, really appreciate the work that you do. And I think that you bring up some really important points, not just, of course, working with individuals with developmental disabilities, but vulnerable populations in general, and some of those issues coming to the forefront, as you mentioned, banking and taxes and things like that. So, of course, in the interest of time, we are not able to take a lot of questions. However, if you do have questions for Libby, if you can put them in the chat box, and be sure to pose them for all panelists. And what we are going to do is we're going to take those questions back, and we will post responses to your questions on Share, and we'll tag you in that, okay? And we'll also tag Libby as well so that she can answer that question for you offline.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so our next presenter is Sherry Dozier. I'm Sherry, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is it Dozier? Dozier. Thank you so much. She is the Director of Economic Opportunity with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress in Ohio. And Sherry's expertise includes, but is not limited to, small business and workforce development. So thank you so much for being here, Sherry, and welcome.
Thanks for having me. I am the Director of Economic Opportunity at Neighborhood Progress, but I'm also our Director of our Community Financial Centers, which is replicating an approach, the Financial Empowerment Center approach of delivering financial coaching. And our execution of that strategy or that approach has been through our community development system as opposed to social services. And so in leveraging that, our points of integrations have been alignment to so the integration financial coaching along some of those workforce development, small business and entrepreneurship, education, and public health. A few years ago, with us being not housing centric, 2 years ago, we saw greater need in supporting individuals that move up and out of poverty through workforce and small business and entrepreneurship. So we aligned ourselves with those CDFIs, those SBA lenders, to be supportive of those underserved entrepreneurs in their delivery and in their ability to access capital. And so our delivery of our approach is that although the center seems very bricks and mortar, we are, however, mobile in our delivery of service. So my team of 4 have been up in the community. So they have a traveling office. So there are an office on wheels. So we are activate the spaces of partners in delivering our service at over 40 locations, being public and private partnerships. And so they bring their laptops, their e-printer, e-scanner, we're on our own hotspot. And we set up so we are able to literally and figuratively meet our clients where they are. And this has been, and our ability to do so has allowed us to be, we haven't had to adapt in our service delivery with COVID. And so we work with those small businesses and entrepreneurs, and they identify for those referrals that we have. So we're in the classroom, we were in the classroom facilitating workshops, but we also provided the one-on-one coaching. And so we work with those key partners in that they identify the but for with the entrepreneurs, but for their subprime credit score, but for their DTI, but for X, Y, and Z. And we create key action plans to work with those clients to address those shortcomings. And then we have the ability in working with those partners to secure funding so that we can provide some of those gap supports and supporting our clients in meeting those goals. And so those dollars we're able to repurpose so that they can lower their loan origination fee, their interest rate, accelerate their credit building or savings strategy by leveraging consumer-friendly products that were being offered. And so for us, again, like this pivot has been essential because we've been able to work with these key partners, repurposing the financial health assessment through a lens of around small business eligibility. So working with those key partners to assess what those needs are, what information is most pertinent, so that we know when we make referrals or we're working with those clients in a very strategic way, that they're in alignment with resources that will assist them during this time, whether it be a forgivable grant, whether it be just a traditional grant or a loan or line of credit. So that has been like where we're seeing, and the impact that we're seeing now is that a client of ours who who is a caterer, who had been in business who has been in business for 26 years, ran through $20,000 in her savings in the last month and a half. And so she had applied for a line of credit, and she was declined because of because her credit score was 5 points below their underwriting criteria. So it's allowed us to back out to that partner and say, these are extremely circumstances, and what can we do to assist her? Again, maybe it's through provide those gap funds for her to address that debt issue that she has, do an accelerated program or something to bind her during this time. So we found that being responsive to when entrepreneurs, what their needs are, extending ourselves beyond traditional 8 to 5 hours, working in the evening, working weekend, converting documents so that they're fill-in PDFs, doing those things. I mean, those are the type of stuff that we have been doing. So to do Skype calls and FaceTime, I really feel like now, like the stars really aligned, unfortunately, that we find ourselves in this pandemic, but we're well positioned to be able to assist our clients during this critical time.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I really, really appreciate your contribution. And I think you also bring up some really great points. I mean, the oft forgotten small business owners and entrepreneurs in the conversation that we have, because we are serving individuals who are often looking for external employment or they're on a fixed income. And that's really a population that does also need a lot of support and guidance at this time. So we really appreciate that perspective. I also love your literal and figurative carrying out of meeting clients where they are. Most of you guys know that that's a very basic tenet of the coaching philosophy for the financial clinic. So in meeting the clients where they are, you're really even, making it possible to meet with customers face to face at their request. If technology is a barrier, if transportation is a barrier, if literacy is a barrier. So we really appreciate your innovative strategies around that, as well as leveraging your current partner connections to really provide wraparound services, to your customers. Thank you very much. And again, for the attendees, just as with Libby, if you have any specific questions for Sherry, whether it be in regards to small business owners or entrepreneurs, or leveraging partnerships or anything like that, go ahead and put that down in the chat, and we will tag you and Sherry in a subsequent share post. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Margarita Alvarez Gomez, who is the Executive Director with Central City Neighborhood Partners, which is based in Los Angeles, California. Margarita's organization is another multi-service agency with expertise in rental, housing, and legal supports, working with undocumented families and light touch tax planning. So welcome, Margarita. Can you hear us? Let's see. Margarita, can you hear us? I see that you're on. Okay, are you able to unmute yourself so that you can speak? Margarita, are you able to unmute yourself? Oh. Okay. I actually, for whatever reason, can't seem to unmute you. You don't have an unmute button.
Amanda, I can connect with Margarita to help her to call in. If maybe we could move to the
certainly.
coach Q&A session, and then we can come back to her comments. We'll take care of her audio offline.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that.
No
so
problem.
Hopefully we will hear from Margarita soon, but we will go ahead and move forward with our coaches Q&A. And so at this time, I would like to welcome our expert coach, Kira Hansel and who are expert coaches on staff with the Financial Clinic, to share their experiences and strategies for coaching customers amid the pandemic. Now, if you were with us for the virtual coaching training, you might remember at a Q&A type format. And if you registered for this training, which is why you're here today, we made you answer some registration questions, and you may or may not have been very thrilled about that, but we did take your questions back to coaches and kind of followed what were those emerging themes, what were some questions that were pretty persistently being either asked or what you guys really wanted to know and be able to talk to coaches about. So We do have some questions that we procured from your registration feedback, as well as some other feedback from you guys. And so welcome, Kira and Raul. So for this first question, I'm actually going to direct at Raul. What strategies or solutions have you used with customers to help them address spending and or savings on limited or fixed income? And I would say that this is probably one of the most asked questions from you guys about spending and savings when someone has either recently lost their job or experienced a drop in their income, or whether they are on a fixed income.
Definitely. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. Sound good.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. That's definitely a question that I've been having myself as well, and some of the things that I've been kind of strategizing about. Thankfully, I can not express this how thankful I am for Share, because actually one of our other colleagues. So the ideas that I'm going to express are not my own. So I do got to give credit to my colleague Bridget. Someone posed this question on Change Machine Share, and her answer was just something that I've been trying with customers. And it's just been helpful a lot. So one of the things that she mentioned, one of the strategies that she mentioned to try with customers is that, especially returning customers, is just take off all the way, like erase the whole spending planner that they had before, and have them come up with a paper and start filling out all their expenses. So you start first with your income. So point number one would be to have them do an exercise where they have a piece of paper, they write down their current income, right? Because chances are either their income has vanished or maybe perhaps their reduced income. So have them write their income at first, and then the next step is have them say their expenses, what their current expenses are. Because even though there is some negative to lower income, there's also some positives in it, right? A lot of people can't, a lot of the cities were locked out, right? You were stay-at-home orders, right? So a lot of folks are not, spending gas, are not spending on a lot of things that they normally would. So I think having them remove expenses that are no longer part of their day by just simply writing down what comes to their mind of what's current expenses. And that's gonna give them an idea of like, it's like a whole new mindset in terms of doing your spending plan, because all of a sudden the customer gonna see like, well, yeah, you're right. I don't seem to have like a lot more, like my expenses have also gone down. And so they almost have like a light bulb type of moment, which they can help them also ease a little bit of peace into their minds as they probably came all hesitant and concerned about like not having enough money. That's definitely one way to go that I noticed that has been a good strategy in terms of having the customer with addressing spending and savings. And then also knowing that perhaps even at this moment they might not be able to save, but that's okay. Maybe you can revisit the financial goal later on, or maybe you can see that if they're not able to save, their goal is still going to be attainable. It just might be attainable at the date that was pre-chosen or predestined before COVID-19. So that doesn't mean, I think as a financial coaches, we have to reiterate that their financial goals are probably now going to be achieved at a later time, but that doesn't mean they're not going to get achieved. And so I've seen those strategies worked, ease the tension and help them get back on track. But I'm also curious to hear what everybody else has said, if people are willing to share on the chat box or even share.
Yes, and that's a fantastic point, Raul. Thank you so much for sharing. I do think that, as coaches, we have to remind customers that even when we're goal setting in the beginning, before all of this happened, our goals are iterative and they change, and we have to be open to revisiting our goals and being flexible, and that it's okay to not be able to save, and it's okay to sit down and really clear your mind. It can be very overwhelming, but to start with, first step is let's write down all of your expenses. Where can we eliminate some expenses? Where has money been freed up? What resources are available to help fill those gaps? And so I think that having those conversations are very important in helping the customer to take a step back and say, it's okay, this will pass, and we can be responsive in this moment. So thank you so much. And so I'm actually going to take a step back and reintroduce Margarita, who is able to join us now. Thank you so much, Margarita. Can you hear us now? Let's see, I might be able to, oh, I can't unmute her. Megan, are you able to unmute Margarita?
Yep, I did for the phone. So you may need to unmute yourself as well. Go ahead and just speak into your phone.
Oh, we actually have a comment from somebody, Osiel, thank you so much. He says, I've encouraged clients to utilize the donated food or meal programs to shift available resources toward other important financial responsibilities. And that's such a great point. You know, we can still leverage. The nice thing, that the shining light that's come out of all of this is that people are mobilizing to donate their money and provide assistance and supports to people who really need it. And so that helps to kind of fill those gaps where you can free up your money instead of using that on food and rent and all of those things. If you are able to either get assistance there or take advantage of payment moratoriums to help free up those funds for other more basic immediate needs. Thank you so much for sharing that, Osiel. So Margarita, I'm not hearing you. I'm not sure if there's maybe a problem with your phone. But if so, I believe we'll just go ahead and move forward. And if we're able to get you later, we would love to have you come back and talk more about your program. All right, so the second question that we procured for you guys is, what strategies or solutions have you used with customers to help keep them motivated and focused during this uncertain and unprecedented time? We talked a little bit about customers feeling of overwhelm, and it's kind of chaotic. How do you get them focused and motivated on their goals? So this question I'd like to open up to both Kira and Raul.
Awesome.
So go ahead, Kira, sorry.
Hi, everybody. Raul actually spoke to this in his previous question, which is, you know, just, I guess, giving them support and having them write that information down is seeing something in front of you on paper makes a huge difference. But you have to look at the negativity that's in the news right now. So one of the things that I feel it's been helpful is to give them their dreams back. So when I'm watching the news and I'm seeing despair and I'm seeing all these things, it's easy to get you into a place of, you know, why bother, or, you know, I have so much going on. But, you know, if you encourage them, look on Zillow, look on there and see a house that you can see yourself in. And once you put a vision along with the plan, it makes it something that's fun to obtain. So if you see something and you say, you know what, this was something I was working towards for the last couple of weeks, and I can see myself living in this house, and the excitement is amazing when you give them the options that are on the upside versus us only focusing on the downside. One of the other things that I actually like to do with my customers is, if they have, I think we were talking about that earlier with Sherry Dozier, is that you have business owners. And so this is a great time while they have the free time to write their vision board out, a vision plan of where they see taking this time can actually be useful, and then building towards something else. So we just have to redirect their thought process just for a moment to the positive, so that we outweigh what's going on right now that's negative.
Great, thank you, Kira.
And if I can just add a little bit to that as well. One of the things that I was looking into is International Coaching Federation surveys that they send out to coaching customers.
Yes.
And one of the things that they found out was that overall clients, like, they asked them what the value of what they customers saw as the value of coaching. And one of the things they mentioned was just coaches serving as sounding boards, motivators, and a friend. And so sometimes, like, I think as coaches, we have to remind ourselves that simply by being the sounding board and being that motivator and friend, you already, you know, that by itself, it's already kind of helping them cope with what they're dealing with. And so we must remember that also, that just by practicing coaching is it's going to give them, according to folks that have gone through coaching, is going to give them, you know, they're going to end up at a better place than where they were before.
I was muted. Thank you so much, Raul. That definitely speaks to the value of coaching and your guys' role as coaching supports. So this question I would like to pose to both. Oh, actually, this one's just going to be for you, Kira.
Okay.
How are you coaching customers around their credit and taking advantage of and understanding payment moratoriums? So we did talk a little bit about customers taking advantage of these payment moratoriums in order to free up immediate resources for their immediate needs and expenses and stuff like that. However, there is sometimes a lack of understanding about these payment moratoriums. So how would you coach customers around that and implications for their credit?
What I have been, I guess, experiencing for the last couple of weeks is that a lot of people, they get upset because they say, well, if I don't make this payment, is it going to impact my score?
Right.
I'm trying to, you know, take this money that I have and use it the best, but I don't want to go from being, you know, all this work I've done for the last year and I'm getting close to my goal, and then all of a sudden these late payments set me so far back that I have to start all over again. So one of the things that I'm trying to encourage them is that scores change daily. So whenever there's something that's on there, it's temporary. Anything that we do, we have to make sure family is first and that we are secure in our homes and we can afford our food and everything else. And that comes with having that spending plan in place. But the biggest thing is communication. So if there comes a point where they are not able to pay for something, and it's a credit card or some sort of car loan or anything like that, that open line of communication with the lender is key, because they have programs that are in place. They don't have to have any type of explanation. They just have to basically make that initial call and say, I have an issue with COVID-19 that's preventing me from this payment. What are my options? And the most important question that they can ask is, if I take this option, how is that going to reflect on my credit? So it's great that they would pause it, but you want to make sure that it's something that is going to reflect that it's not a late payment. So I make sure that they understand that. One of the things that they also need to make sure that they understand is, how is the payment then assessed later? So are they going to ask for one lump sum payment at the end of this program? Are they going to divide it out? Are they just going to keep charging interest and then you don't pay the payment? So each lender is different. So I want them to understand those differences and know what proper questions to ask when they're on the phone, and to make sure they can get confirmation emails or letters sent to them so that everything is documented and that it's in writing. So those were some great programs that have been put out there, but if they're not used correctly, it can cause damage later. So just, you know, if there's a possibility to pay it and it doesn't, you know, interrupt anything, I always suggest to go for it and pay it, because we don't want to have a whole, you know, big giant jumble of payments due at the same time later on once this is all over.
Thank you, Kara. That is really a great point. And coaching customers to understand what the implications for the payment moratorium are, how is this going to be reflected on my credit report? So I think those are all very important questions. I actually do answer a lot as far as helping customers to feel empowered to make those phone calls. Thank you. How might you coach a customer who's not approved for credit, for example, based on their credit history? And even if you could talk just briefly about prioritizing their expenses over credit card payments.
I'm sorry, I had muted myself. I thought I was able to talk on here. Okay, so you said, how do you do with the coaching customers around their credit and take advantage of understanding? Here's the hard part. When you have a credit issue, this probably was in place before COVID-19 actually took into effect. So it just makes it bad timing. So we had some people that were in the process of working on things. Their score just isn't quite where it needs to be just yet. And they're not necessarily approvable. And the biggest thing we want to warn against is predatory lending, because all of a sudden all these different things pop up and say, oh, we'll give you a loan anyway, but then we have to start watching what is the interest rate going to be, and are they gouging and taking advantage of your situation. So I'm a big fan of credit unions, and a lot of times credit unions also offer plans that they have emergency loans that will help their members. And so they don't always look at your credit score. And a lot of times I believe, kind of like to what Raul was saying, is that when you build a rapport, you have to let them understand that they can actually be approved and not to tell themselves no. I think a lot of times we prejudge, and before we even try a better option for a lender, we think, it's not where it needs to be, so they're going to say no, so I'm not even going to try. But credit unions have amazing programs during this time that they're giving small loans in spite of your credit, and to encourage them to at least try that. As far as support to prioritize their expenses and credit card payments, food first. I mean, making sure that your family and everyone else is in its best position is always going to come first. And unfortunately, when we have to pick and choose, that goes back to that same list of when they put together their own spending plan and they can see everything written down, it makes it a little bit easier to have the discernment as to what to prioritize. And I think the last part you have on here is how might we coach a customer around calling them? That speaks back to what I had said earlier, is to have everything in email form and a copy of it, and then just having a set list. The beauty of this is that on Change Machine, we have lists and tip sheets and so forth. And sometimes if we can send them that as a reminder and as an email, it actually will give them the information that they need step by step. So the community has put some awesome tip sheets together that can actually help them through this process. And then again, if there's a specific question that you run into that a customer has, just pose that question, and any one of us would be more than happy to come back with a solution. And the great part about having this Change Machine platform is that some of us have experience with different types of lenders and banks. So if it's specific to, say, Capital One, and we have some information from a previous customer that might be useful, and you pose that question, we can actually give you that information directly for that lender. So hopefully this is something, again, that we just have not been through before. And I can imagine the fear of a customer going through this for the first time, but knowing that they have us in their corner is going to make it a lot easier for them and their family.
Thank you, Kara. I think that was definitely some great advice that you shared, and I really appreciate that. It looks like we.
Kara? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Kara, I would say, this is Sherry. Thanks again for advice as well, as we've worked with employers that offer emergency loans. And so we were working with them in advance, and they reached out to us on a contract fee for service basis because they didn't have any structure around their loan requests. And so this is helpful as we went and reshaped that so that it would have greater clarity on their side, because it was so open-ended and around the expectations around those payments. So thanks again for elevating that. But I would even encourage some of the staff, as we look at some of those employers that offer some of those employer-based loans, because they will be inundated with requests for, like, how do they manage this? Because it was more manageable when you had 1% or something, very small percentage of employees that requested those loans. And now in the midst of COVID, for those that are still in operation, COVID has greatly impacted they're drowning in those requests.
Yes, they are.
Thank you so much for that, Sherry. We just have one last question. I want to direct this at Raul because it is a very popular question, of course, for families who are immigrants and individuals who are immigrants, whether they're documented or undocumented. There are unique challenges and barriers for both groups. And so for Raul, if you can share what strategies or solutions you've had for coaching customers. And also I've embedded actually Raul, you shared this resource with me, embedded a document in here. So you guys will be getting these slides as a follow-up, and all information is embedded in links and available to you guys to access in these slides. So what What strategies and solutions have you found for coaching customers and families who are immigrants, both documented and undocumented?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the best strategies is also knowing that as a coach, that with the coaching model is that, um, the customers are sort of like they're their own experts in their own situations, and that couldn't be more clear with undocumented community. They're very resourceful. So in my time of coaching, I honestly have found most of my resources through the undocumented community. So sometimes I find myself like, wow, that is an amazing resource. Hold up, give me a second. Let me just write that down for future reference or for future customers. But one of the things that I notice is that, so in my experience, undocumented folks are very resourceful. But one of the concerns that I have that I seen some of the barriers for undocumented folks is the fact that they might not know, they might be a little hesitant in terms of or have question how the government is allowing them is putting into practice that a deferment of rent, a deferment of credit cards. Like they still kind of like are sort of suspicious of that. So in my coaching, what I've been doing is that I've been just giving them straight forward them information so they can contact whether it be their representative or their Department of Consumer and Business Affairs here in Los Angeles, or pretty much any housing agency that they might be, because I also coach people throughout the country. And so finding any housing agency and having them called so they can verify, because I do see that in these times, they're kind of, they might be, whether they're getting pressure from the landlord or the landlord's taking advantage knowing that they're undocumented, that they might kind of be scared to not be current on their payments. So I understand that sometimes that's because they come from different countries, different institutions, where maybe their institution have failed them, they have that concern. So those have been, I think, one of the main things is connecting them to either nonprofits that help specifically undocumented people in their area or agencies. Another thing that I noticed is that also in their intake sheets, we also screen them to see if there's anyone, what kind of resources are their income support services have they already applied. So I know that like most undocumented folks know that their kids who are citizens are eligible for resources, are eligible for income supports. So most of them already have applied, but if they haven't, that's another great way to coach undocumented folks, is to see because most of these folks are coming from what's called mixed immigration families, meaning they might be undocumented, but their sons or daughters or aunts or grandma might not be. So someone in their family might be eligible for, and so having that as an income support, the immigrant families tend to do, from what I've seen, is they rely a lot on their community and a lot on their family. There's like a support network there. So I think like leveraging that to have them become financially stable is huge for these times.
Not sure if we lost Amanda, but I am actually, I think that we have Margarita now. So if you can try to speak with your colleague's iPad, let's see if we've got you. So we can actually turn to our last speaker to close things out.
Hi, Megan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Well, here I am. We finally did it. You know, unlike many of you, CCMP is learning to do technology. We were not technology savvy before. And so with this COVID-19, we had to learn very quickly. And so Central City Neighborhood Partners is located in Los Angeles in the Westlake Pico Union area, which is one of our most impoverished communities in Los Angeles. Hi, Raul. Raul used to be here for a little bit, and even in their opinion, you know, we serve the most I mean, people need so much here. And so one of the things that we pivoted since the COVID-19 outbreak is the ability to be able to continue to provide services. We do case management, we have a food bank, we're a vital site, and of course we do financial coaching and financial literacy. And so it was already very hard for our community to do financial coaching to begin with. Unlike many other nonprofits, we have not gone to telecommuting. We're still here 5 days a week. We're a team of 27 people, and we all here. Our building is pretty big, so we're blessed to be able to do that. So we use social technology, social distancing in order to continue to service the community. And like all of you were saying, our community is not used to doing computer or signing, you know, on the online. They still want to see a face, and they want to come and they want to talk to us. So what we're doing is setting appointments, you know, 20-minute appointments with the individuals. We do the intake on the phone, or we have them send their documents via text or by email if they have an email, and then we meet with them to go over the intake. So before we didn't have laptops, so that was the first thing we had to do, go purchase laptops and purchase additional. We only had one cell phone for the company, so we had to go buy cell phones so that people could send us text for the documents. And so that's the first thing we had to do. We had to learn how to use different types of technology for our customers. Some of the solutions we've encountered, particularly for our tax preparation and our financial coaching, is, you know, they drop off their documents. We do the intake on the phone and all of that. And so our customers continue to trust that we're going to be able to do a good job with them, even though they're not sitting in front of us when we're doing their taxes or when we are doing the financial coaching sessions with them. Many of the things that have come up for us is many of our customers didn't have a bank account before, and they understand now the need to have a bank account. Because everything that's happening right now, they will need a bank account. Even getting help from the government or other financial help is one of the requirements. So our financial coaching staff is working with our customers and looking for bank accounts that are free of charge and that they can do online. It's still a little bit hard, you know, like Raul was saying, customers are still like, is this true? You know, can I really do that? We had an opportunity to give people some money and people were questioning that. So we, you know, having to coach people through that and telling them, you know, we're for CCMP, we have been in the community for over 20 years, we worked with you in the past, so yes, this is true. And so I think for the next 12 to 18 months, the things that we have to then come up with is how are people going to be able to go over this? You know, many people are not going to be able to go back to the jobs they had. Many people, one of the work that we're going to be doing in the next few months is working with people to make sure that they stay home and that they don't lose their housing through financial coaching, through supportive services, just through different efforts so that we don't have more homeless individuals in Los Angeles. Our job will be to ensure that we keep them home. For our undocumented population, which is about 80% of the population we serve, you know, coming up with different solutions on how they can keep their apartment where they're living. So finding different resources for employment, keeping our technology and even teaching them how to use technology for their benefit. it has been difficult. We do have a food bank on site, and we went from serving 100 families to now serving over 600 families on a weekly basis. So trying to capture some of those families that come to the food bank so that we can then talk to them about budgeting and being prepared for the future, and really utilizing this emergency as a beginning financial coaching during a pandemic. Or, you know, we've been talking about families saving for emergencies, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to say, this is a perfect example, you know, were you prepared for this? Were you prepared to lose your job for 2 or 3 months? And so if we weren't, then let's prepare, let's begin now. Let's make that change for your own personal budget. And even if it's only $5 a week or whatever, that you can start saving for emergency. We're using several programs. We have a program called MESA, where people are able to save money and then we match those savings. We are encouraging people to use that for emergency, but not to pull out the money. We have another savings account that is a credit builder. And so we now have the opportunity to tell them, this is the time to prepare for the future. And our families have many other barriers, you know, from being very poor, for having very low paying jobs, to perhaps being undocumented. So we have to deal with all of that, but also looking at, okay, what can you do? Looking on their strengths rather than on their weaknesses. So all the work that we do is based on the family strengths of the entire family, so that we can then have a solution for them in the future.
Thank you so much, Margarita. And thank you to everyone who hung out with us a few extra minutes. I think the only thing we wish is we had more hours in the day to spend with all of you. I know that all of us at the clinic are just incredibly impressed and inspired by the good work that all of you are doing in your communities. You've done great work for a long time, and you'll continue to do that work for a long time after COVID. But the fact that you have worked so hard to pivot in this moment and be responsive to the needs of the folks that you serve, again, is just truly inspiring to all of us at the clinic. I do want to encourage folks, I know we've got people who are heading out since we've run over by about 4 or 5 minutes now. All of our speakers, including expert coaches and feature speakers today, are on the Share community on Change Machine. So please go to Share, ask questions. You can even tag them if you want to. We will be essentially posting the questions from the chat today onto Share, so you can go there to check out answers to those questions, but please continue to have conversations there as well. I'll just quickly highlight next week, we're going to do a similar session. We'll have the opportunity to submit questions ahead of time for expert coaches. We'll feature some more Share community members. But I do also want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, everyone can access Share and the COVID-19 resources that the clinic has put together for free with a community license to Change Machine. And so we are following up this training with an email that will include PowerPoint and recording of the training, but will also include a link to request your free community license. And so if you're not on Change Machine yet, we definitely should get you on Change Machine. And then a second thing to highlight is last week, for folks who do not have capacity to provide expert level financial coaching services and want a referral point for your customers, we have opened up a link to refer customers to financial coaching sessions on Share. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please also check out Share and we'll help you out there. Thank you to everybody for hanging on for a few extra minutes. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much to all the speakers.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
Perfect.
so
You're
much.
welcome.